Hi, and welcome to our block of the month with the dynamic trio, myself, Sylvia at You and Me FPP, and Melissa at Practically Creative. Don't forget to go see them and see what they've come up with. I was having a creative block till I found some small Dresdens that I had, and I thought, I haven't made any Dresden plates in a while, blades. Let's make one. This is a 10-inch Dresden ruler from Missouri Star, and I am cutting at the 2.5-inch line. Cutting these so I can stack them and cut them all at the same time. And the one I'm making only needs 10 blades, and I sewed it a little different. I didn't stick to the 1/4-inch seam on the side. So I Googled it. It said this one needs 20 blades. Google failed me. Google failed me, and now the world is just chaos. And this is my 1/4-inch foot I'm using. I like to show where you put your fabric at. Line it up right there on that little outer or the inner little part. After you have them cut, the first thing you do is, I'm going to call the shorter end the bottom and the longer end the top. So fold them in half and sew across the top with your 1/4-inch seam. This goes pretty fast. I'm using a 1.8 stitch. I didn't back stitch any of these. I didn't have any trouble with my seams coming apart either. Probably because I used a small stitch. I could have went smaller. And for the curious, this machine is a XR9550 by Brother. And I am using polyester thread in the top and in the bobbin, and it's serger thread. I had a whole bunch of serger thread given to me. I use a small stitch anyway, and do you know now they're making threads that are only 2-ply like a lot of serger threads? So I haven't had any trouble. If you don't like it, don't use it. But it's not breaking on me or anything else, so I'm going to call it good. I didn't know I needed only 10 of these until I started sewing them together. So now I have enough for 2. I am clipping the corner on the side of the fold when I cut my chains, so they turn a little bit smoother. They don't have so much bulk there. Be careful not to cut your stitches. This went pretty fast. And if I didn't mention it, I just used my scraps. I only needed a 2.5-inch by not even 2.5 wide, so. And I'm taking the purple thing, I put it in there and I turn it. I don't know how to explain how I turn it. But the purple thing goes on top on the seam, and my thumb goes inside, and then I turn it onto the purple thing so the flat side is pushing that corner, and then I use the pointier part if I need it. I don't like to use the pointier part. Almost every time it has to go through at least once on what I'm doing, and it will pretty soon because I'm too rough. But the flat end works great for this. Just a quick turn. I know I went through one of these, and all I did was turn it back around and re-sew it. There it is. That's the one. So if you have poked your stiletto or turner or whatever through a seam, you are not alone. I just re-sewed it a little bit over. It's going to be stitched down on top when I top stitch it anyway, so I'm not terribly concerned. And I did this to all 20. You can slow the video down. There's a little cog underneath the video and you can adjust the speed. So if you want to see this slower, you can see it slower. Try to keep the videos short. I actually like doing this. Doing a few at a time. I would not like doing a million at a time, but doing a few at a time was fine. I didn't get real finicky. You can fold them over on themselves and put a crease in it, and then make sure that that seam right there lines up with the crease to make sure they're centered. I'm not. I'm just kind of pulling them apart and eyeballing it, and if it doesn't look right, I turn it over a little bit. I push one side over a little bit more, like that right there. I pushed it over just a little bit more, giving it a quick press. And almost everything I use, I think, will be in the description box, because that's how we roll around here. Now, I did the cutting for these last night, which took me about 10 minutes. And then I did the sewing at 4 o'clock in the morning. And it took me an hour and a half, but like I said, I made twice as many as I should have. So it didn't take that long for one. And I pressed all of these, and I included pressing time and the sewing time. Everything I did over here at my sewing area, I'm including in that hour, and I think it was an hour and 20 minutes exactly. So, you know, I'd figure about half that time to just do one. And I'm lining them up, trying to get them in the order that I want them. And now I'm going to mix them. Also I'm trying to keep it kind of consistent in the fabrics I'm using and wear. Now this is where I'm doing it a little bit different. And I realized I did the wrong side on the first one I did, but it still worked. I'm lining the top edge right there with my 1/4 inch foot, but then sewing to the little press I'm doing right here at the bottom. That's what I'm sewing to, and I'm putting that line on the red line on my seam tape so I don't forget. Fold it over, give it a quick press with my nail or your thumb, start at the 1/4 inch and sew to the middle. And if you're on a cell phone, you may be able to scroll in and see this better. But I've just got that outer tip over at my 1/4 inch, and I angled it to where I would go right to the middle. I'm doing them 2 at a time. Then after I get these done and pressed, and I'm pressing them all the same direction, when I press that seam, I'll put the green fabric on top and press it back. Remember, chain piecing is our friend. Don't cut your threads in between, don't waste your threads. Just do a couple stitches in between, create that little chain that I'm cutting here. Putting my green one on the top and pressing it back to it. I could have pressed either way. This is just the way I felt like pressing, but I wanted to make sure I was going the same way with all of them. I set those up right sides together, and I'm going to do the same thing, except for now I can see my stitch line on the other side, and I'll just go to that stitch line from the 1/4 inch, right there where my left thumb is, down to the seam. I'm not crossing it, I'm just going either barely under it or right to it when I can. Pretty sides of the fabric always together. And then we'll give them another press after we cut these chains. Again, I'm putting the green on top and pressing that way. Putting my right sides together as I go to set myself up to sew again, and there I'm showing you where the quarter foot is and the seam that I'm going to. The thread, not the seam, sorry. The thread I'm lining up on my seam tape, so I'm actually using both right now. I wanted to see how it worked last night. I liked that made that center very small. And this is where I realized I had way too many. I had to separate some so I could fix this. Like I said, I only needed 10. I think it's because the way I was sewing that seam. I don't know if that's different or if that's pretty common. I always see the 1/4 inch seam on these, and I just wanted to see what would happen. And I like it like this. And my friend said it reminded them of a poinsettia. It did me too. I think somehow my friend Sylvia at UMEFPP got in my head with her holiday hop one. Now I'm giving it another press. I could spray this, I didn't, with some starch. Since I made both, I'm pressing both. I won't finish both in this video. Aren't those just so cute? And you could, if you wanted to, put a piece of batting behind them and a piece of backing fabric and stitch them right to that with a zigzag stitch and cut around it with some, they're not called zigzag scissors. I know that, Melissa, at Practically Creative. I did say Sylvia at UMEFPP, right? Okay. I call them zigzag scissors sometimes. Stop judging. There are no quilt police here. Or grammar police. Or spelling police. I hope. Now I'm taking these 2.5 inch strips, and I know the block I'm making, I want it to be 6.5 inches unfinished. So I am cutting 2 to 6.5 by 2.5, and then I'll cut 2 pieces 2.5 inches square. I am going to put the 2.5 inches on right sides together. One at the top of my 6.5 inch strip and one at the bottom. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch right there, and I'm not going to cut my thread. I'll just lift my foot and move to the next one. And do the same with the other long end using my 1/4 inch, and there's a hole in the middle. I'm just going to lift my foot, move my fabric forward, make sure my bottom and side is straight right there on that piece and the one underneath it. Pretty sides together. I sewed one of these with the wrong side together and I left it because it's not going to bother me. It was very hard to tell for me. And of course, there's always that person that, you know, the princess and the pea syndrome. You can lay on 20 mattresses and still feel that one little pea at the bottom. Some people's eyes are like that. They can see it. I can't. I'm happy with it. Be happy with yours. It's your quilt. You're the boss of your quilt. If nobody has told you that, there you go. And I folded the background piece in half both ways and then lined my Dresden up in the center. You can kind of see where the tips are lined up. and I switched to the zipper foot because I was watching someone that I think is pretty brilliant. I think I know who it was, but I don't want to give you the wrong information. I can see this so much easier doing this top stitch with the zipper foot. Is this just something I'm the only one that didn't know about? I'll tell you who I think I saw it on. I think I saw Sophia over at My Great Challenge use it for top stitching. I can't remember if it was a wardrobe piece that she was doing or a quilt. But I was like, oh, I've got to try that. And I did. And it worked great on my double wedding ring pieces I made. So I'm doing it again. I think that's odd. I didn't know. And if you're going the opposite direction, all you have to do is switch that zipper foot to the other side. Multi-tools. Yay! I don't like things for one thing. I back stitch at the beginning and at the end, and then I'm going to take my self-threading needles. Note to self, I need some more of those. I'm going to take those. Whoops, I'm not. I forgot. I got very high-tech here. I needed something round to go in the center, and I was wondering what, so I tried to go around one of the stars in my blue fabric with a pencil, and I used a glue stick. I used a glue stick as a template. This may not even, nah, it's more like a 1/2 inch around. And I'm using my zigzag stitch, so I switched my foot back to my universal J foot. Lining it up like I do with any other. Trying to keep the fabric on the outer side. Give it a quick stitch around, back stitch. Now I'm going to pull all my threads through. I remember doing that. And don't forget, we had the holiday hop this year with myself, Melissa, Practically Creative, Sylvia, You and Me, FPP, and Dawn at My Quilt Projects. We each did something different, 3 videos each on our channels. Go check those out, please. And it's done. I need to add a hook or something. I always add those last, and I'm undecided about what I want to do. This is going to go in my Christmas sampler quilt that I've been doing on my lives. Merry Christmas. Have a great December. See you, I don't know. And Happy New Year in case I don't. Take care.